The subway car jolted, lights flickering like dying stars, when a woman who ruled skyscrapers leaned close to a weary single dad and whispered 4 words that shattered the night. "They're here for me." In that breath, the child beside them clutched her sketchbook, unaware that hidden weapons were about to turn the crowded train into a battlefield. And as the tunnel roared with smoke and fear, the man everyone thought was just a father revealed a past the world believed had died. The 6:15 train roared into the station, dragging the stale air of the tunnels with it. The metallic scent of brake dust and damp concrete filled the platform as passengers pressed inside. Evelyn Hartman stood among them, poised yet restless, her cream-colored coat hugging her tall frame like armor. At 35, she was the youngest CEO in her company's history, a woman who built empires with contracts and destroyed adversaries with poise. Tonight, though, the underground lights carved shadows across her face, revealing a flicker of something she rarely allowed: fear. For 3 days, she had felt eyes at her back, a weight that never lifted. She had dismissed threats before. Competitors always threw them like knives, hoping to nick her composure. But these were different. They carried the name she loathed hearing out loud: Victor Kane. And when she boarded the subway, she knew the trap had finally closed. A few feet away sat Daniel Cole with his daughter Sophie. At first glance, he was a portrait of exhaustion. A worn olive jacket, stubble shadowing his jaw, eyes dulled by the grind of single parenthood. But Evelyn's instinct caught something else. The way he sat with his daughter pressed safely to the window. The way his gaze drifted across every reflection in the glass, cataloging exits, measuring distances. His body carried quiet readiness, like a storm behind calm clouds. Sophie, oblivious, was drawing flowers in the condensation of the window. She was 8, her laughter light as bells, and her small hands still smelled faintly of baby soap. The innocence was jarring against the metallic growl of the train. The car jolted as the doors slid shut, sealing them in. Evelyn felt her throat tighten. Across the aisle, a man in a brand-new maintenance vest adjusted the emergency brake cord. Another passenger with a too-perfectly scuffed backpack lingered near the exit door, his hand brushing his jacket too often. At the far end, a violinist played a melancholy tune, but his eyes roamed, sharp and calculating, missing notes he should never have missed. The patterns converged into one truth. Evelyn leaned forward, her breath brushing against Daniel's ear, her voice breaking the fragile fabric of normalcy. "They're here for me." He did not startle. He shifted slightly, a subtle tightening in his shoulders. His eyes swept the car, dissecting it with precision, before locking on hers. "How many?" The question was not one of disbelief, but of strategy. Her lips trembled. 3, maybe 4, Kane's men." "Daddy?" Sophie's voice floated between them. "What's wrong?" Daniel crouched, his voice soft but urgent, wrapping her in a world she could understand. "Game time, sweetheart. Close your eyes. Count the stations. Whisper the number to me each time we pass." Sophie frowned. "Counting's boring. Then I'll make pancakes tomorrow, with smiley faces." Her giggle was quick, trusting. She shut her eyes and pressed her cheek to his shoulder. The train plunged deeper into the tunnel. Lights flickered once, twice, and steadied again, buzzing like bees trapped in glass. Evelyn's pulse matched their rhythm. She tried to summon her corporate armor, the voice that had dismantled billion-dollar mergers, but here it cracked under the reality of smoke and steel. She gripped the chrome pole until her knuckles whitened. "You think he's here?" she asked. Daniel's jaw clenched. "Victor Kane doesn't delegate the finale. He'll be waiting at the right station. This," he gestured at the shadows shifting in the car, "is just the opening act." As if on cue, the man in the vest tugged the emergency cord. Nothing. The mechanism was dead. Evelyn's heart slammed. "It's broken?" "Tampered," Daniel muttered. "They prepped the car." He glanced at the camera in the corner and the black grate of the intercom. Tell dispatch. Code red. Don't use names. Her voice, which had once swayed shareholders and terrified rivals, cracked into the static with uncharacteristic honesty. This is Car 5. Code red. Tampered car, hostile extraction attempt. Child on board. Whether anyone heard, she didn't know. The violin stopped, its last note dangling too long in the smoke of silence. The violinist's case clicked shut with a finality that made Evelyn's stomach twist. Daniel rose with the train's sway, his body sliding between Evelyn and the aisle. His voice was barely a whisper, but carried the authority of command. Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say. No questions. Evelyn bristled, instinct screaming against obedience. But then she saw his eyes, not pleading. Certain, eyes that had seen storms she couldn't imagine. For the first time in years, Evelyn Hartman nodded to someone else's authority. The first strike came fast. A blade flashed under the fluorescent glare, ugly and crude. Daniel's hand caught the attacker's wrist, slamming it against the steel pole. The clang was a judge's gavel in the courtroom of the underground. Another man lunged with a taser. Daniel pivoted with the rhythm of the car, forcing the weapon to spark against the metal railing. Sparks danced, and Sophie whispered in her sleep, "One," her voice cutting through chaos with the innocence of counting. Evelyn's chest heaved as she turned to the door's narrow window. Beyond it, through the haze of dirty glass, she saw Victor Kane, immaculate in a charcoal suit, hair slicked back, eyes pale as steel. He smiled, lifting a small device in his hand, tapping it against the glass like a gentleman greeting old friends. Her stomach turned cold. Smoke, panic, theater. His opening act had begun. The intercom crackled above her. The robotic voice announced, "Next stop, 51st Street." Evelyn felt her knees weaken. Each station was no longer geography. It was a countdown. She tightened her grip on the pole, tasted metal on her tongue, and knew this night would not end without blood or truth. Sophie whispered again, her voice faint but steady. 2. The train rattled deeper into the veins of the city, each screech of metal on rail echoing like a warning. Smoke lingered faintly from the disabled taser, curling around steel poles, carrying the acrid scent of ozone. Evelyn Hartman pressed her back to the cool partition, her heart racing, eyes locked on Daniel Cole. He stood a step ahead, body angled like a shield, Sophie tucked safely behind him in the narrow recess between seats. For a moment, the world shrank to the rhythm of her small voice. 3, she whispered, barely audible above the rumble of wheels. Evelyn realized that the child's counting was not only a distraction, but a lifeline, a fragile thread tying them all to hope. The train jolted abruptly, slowing as if seized by an invisible hand. Brakes shrieked, sparks flared beyond the windows, and then it stopped altogether between stations. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting the car into pulses of light and shadow. When the emergency doors hissed, 2 new figures entered from the adjoining car. One carried a canister the size of a thermos. The other, tall with dead eyes, moved with the silence of someone trained to kill. Evelyn's stomach knotted. "Gas," she murmured. Daniel's expression hardened. "Not lethal. Theater. They want chaos to do the work." The canister clattered against the floor, rolling, releasing a hiss that filled the air with bitter smoke. Passengers coughed, their panic swelling like a tide. Phones flickered as trembling hands recorded, but the smoke blurred faces, making the truth slippery. Daniel grabbed Sophie, cradling her face against his chest, whispering something too soft for Evelyn to catch. He turned, thrusting the taser into Evelyn's palm. "If anyone touches you, use it. Don't hesitate." The device felt foreign in her hand, heavy with responsibility. Yet when she met his eyes, she saw no hesitation, only trust placed in her, the kind that stripped away excuses. She nodded. Through the thickening haze, the intercom cracked alive, but instead of a robotic announcement, a voice rang out, amplified, confident, venomous. "Evelyn Hartman," Victor Kane called, his words threading through static. You think you can outmaneuver me in boardrooms? Down here, no lawyers, no cameras, no contracts, only survival. And survival favors me. His laugh was low, cruel, amplified by the cavernous tunnel. Evelyn's jaw clenched, fury sparking through her fear. She raised her phone, thumb flying across the screen, sending a coded burst of emails to her legal team. Each message carried words like conspiracy, attempted murder, terrorism. The smoke might hide her face, but the digital trail would illuminate the truth. For the first time since boarding, Daniel looked at her with something close to respect. Law's another battlefield, he muttered. Use it. But the past would not remain buried. As the smoke swirled, another figure stepped forward, closer than the others, eyes locked on Daniel with recognition. His face was lined, scar down his jaw, but Daniel knew him instantly. Mark Rains, once a brother in arms, now a stranger cloaked in betrayal. Iron Wolf, he said, his voice gravel, heavy with memory. I knew Kane's whispers weren't lies. You survived Prague. Evelyn's head snapped at the name, questions burning. But Daniel's eyes told her not now. He stepped forward, voice taut. Mark, you don't have to do this. The man's lips curled into something between a smile and a wound. You left us. You saved one life and cost 6, and they erased you for it. I should kill you here. His weapon rose, trembling not from weakness, but from conflict. Sophie whimpered, clutching her sketchbook, its cover marked with crayons of a family she wished for. Daniel's hand flexed. You know me. I won't beg. But she's innocent. Let her live. For a suspended second, Evelyn thought the tunnel itself held its breath. Mark's eyes flicked to Sophie, to the fragile defiance in Daniel's stance. Then he swore, low and bitter, and turned his aim on one of Kane's own men, firing a shot that echoed like thunder in the confined car. Chaos erupted. Passengers screamed. The canister hissed louder. Smoke billowed like a storm unleashed. Daniel lunged, using the distraction to disarm the second attacker, driving him hard against the steel pole until he slumped, gasping. Evelyn clutched the taser, her breath ragged, ready though no one came for her. Through it all, Sophie whispered from behind her father's coat. 4. The sound cut through smoke and betrayal alike, a reminder of why the fight mattered. Daniel pulled her closer, eyes glistening with something rawer than rage. We'll finish your drawing, he whispered into her hair. Evelyn's chest ached at the gentleness of it, so jarring against the violence. Then the train shuddered back to life, crawling toward the next station. The intercom hissed again, and Victor's voice returned, colder now. Next stop, Lexington. That's where this ends. I'll be waiting, Hartman. And Iron Wolf, I can't wait to welcome you back to the world. The smoke thinned enough for Evelyn to glimpse Daniel's face. His jaw was tight, eyes haunted yet blazing. In them she saw not only the ghost of Iron Wolf, but the father who clung to love as redemption. And she understood. Survival was no longer enough. Truth and justice had to be dragged into the light, no matter how much the tunnel fought to keep them buried. The train screeched into Lexington Station, brakes howling like wounded metal. Doors slammed open and smoke poured into the platform, turning the air into a choking veil. Commuters stumbled and scattered, their cries echoing under tiled ceilings. Evelyn Hartman gripped her phone tight, its screen glowing with messages already sent to her legal team. Evidence and filings that would outlive this night no matter how it ended. Daniel Cole stood in front of her with Sophie clutched close, his jaw set, eyes locked on the silhouette waiting at the far end of the platform. Victor Kane emerged from the haze, immaculate in his charcoal suit, as if untouched by the filth of the underground. His pale gray eyes glinted cold, and in his hand he raised the small black device that pulsed like a threat. One press, he called, his voice amplified by hidden speakers, and smoke floods every tunnel in this line. Panic stampedes lawsuits worth billions, and Evelyn Hartman becomes the face of failure, the queen brought low in the dirt. His lips curved into a smile sharp enough to cut. And Iron Wolf, my little bonus prize. Imagine the price when the world learns the government's ghost still breathes. Sophie buried her face into her father's chest. Daniel's arm tightened around her, and when he looked back at Evelyn, his expression was steel and sorrow woven together. "This ends tonight," he said. She saw the truth. He was ready to sacrifice himself if it meant Sophie walked out alive. But Evelyn stepped forward, her voice steady though her heart thundered. "No, Kane. You've miscalculated. Cameras are rolling. Passengers are recording. My lawyers already have your name tied to attempted murder and conspiracy. You won't disappear this. You'll stand trial. And when you do, you'll learn what power really means." Her words rang across the station, bouncing against the tiles like a gavel struck. Kane's smirk faltered just for an instant, but he raised the device higher, thumb hovering. "Trials are for later. Tonight, I win." He gestured, and 3 of his men advanced, weapons glinting through the haze. Daniel set Sophie gently behind a column, crouched low so she would be shielded from stray fire. He pressed a hand to her hair. "Eyes closed, baby. Ears covered. Don't move until I come back." Her small voice trembled but obeyed, whispering, 5. Daniel rose, the soldier within him breaking through the weary father facade. He met the first attacker with a precision strike, disarming him with brutal efficiency, the gun skittering across the platform. The second swung a baton. Daniel twisted, slammed him into the steel pillar, the crack echoing like thunder. Evelyn, taser in hand, surprised herself by lunging forward to block the third man. Her strike was clumsy but desperate, the taser snapping against his arm. He recoiled, dropping his weapon, and Daniel finished the job with a swift blow. The station roared with chaos, alarms shrieking, smoke thickening, terrified passengers surging like a tide. Kane's face flickered with frustration. "Always the hero, Iron Wolf. But heroes break. Families break." He pointed directly at Sophie, voice laced with venom. "She is your weakness." Daniel's chest heaved, fury igniting, but Evelyn's voice cut through before he could move. "No, she's his strength, and she's the reason you lose." Kane's thumb pressed down. Daniel lunged. He slammed Kane's wrist against the iron pillar, bones snapping with a sickening crack. The device fell, skittering harmlessly across the tiles. Kane screamed, rage breaking through his mask. But Daniel's arm locked around his throat, his voice thundering like a command from the depths of war. "Stand down!" The remaining attackers froze, uncertain, until the passengers themselves surged forward. Ordinary people, office workers, students, strangers, rose together. One hurled a briefcase. Another swung an umbrella. A dozen phones recorded. Shining lights into the smoke. Outnumbered, outmatched, Kane's men dropped their weapons. Daniel released Kane, who collapsed to the ground, clutching his ruined wrist, his eyes burning with hatred. "This isn't over," he hissed. "They'll come for you. They'll never stop." Daniel's gaze was steady, voice quiet but resolute. "Maybe, but not tonight." He turned back, scooping Sophie into his arms. She clung to him, whispering through her tears, "Are we safe now, Daddy?" His voice broke as he pressed his cheek to her hair. "Yes, baby, we're safe." Evelyn approached, her phone still glowing with legal filings. For a moment, she studied Daniel, the haunted soldier, the tender father, and then she spoke softly. "Hartman Group needs a new head of security, not Iron Wolf, Daniel Cole, a man who fights for what matters. I can offer protection, stability, a future for Sophie." He hesitated, weariness and gratitude etched in his face. "You'd trust me, knowing what I was?" Evelyn's answer was quiet but unshakable. "No, but I'd trust Sophie's father with my life." The wail of sirens drew closer as NYPD stormed the station. Officers poured in, detaining Kane and his men. Smoke thinned, leaving the platform raw but alive. Sophie slipped her hand into Evelyn's. her small fingers sticky with crayon marks from the sketchbook she still clutched. "Miss Hartman," she said shyly, "can you come to our house for pancakes? Daddy makes them with smiley faces." Daniel let out a breath, half laughter, half release. And Evelyn, for the first time in years, laughed without calculation. Amid the wreckage of smoke and steel, hope stirred. The city above would roar with headlines by morning, but down here, 3 lives had found truth, and with it, the fragile promise of a new beginning. In the end, it wasn't smoke, fear, or even a ruthless man that defined this night underground. It was the courage to protect, the strength to stand for truth, and the love that gave both meaning. Evelyn found her voice beyond boardrooms. Daniel reclaimed his life beyond shadows, and Sophie reminded them that innocence is worth every fight. Their story is a reminder that even in the darkest tunnels, light can be found when we refuse to give up on love and justice. If this journey touched you, consider subscribing to our channel or sharing your own story, because hope grows stronger when it is carried together.